Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London, and this morning I'm looking at a book from Edward Elgar Publishing, which is a family business. The book is one of the series they've produced in the critical concepts in intellectual property law, and Elgar specialise in some very substantial, very high level academic publications, and they also spend quite a lot of their titles in the intellectual property area, and this is one of them. It's called Trade Secrets and Undisclosed Information, and it's been edited by Sharon K, Sandeen and Elizabeth A, Rowe. Now, we've given it a title, Compelling Research on an Increasingly Important Area of Intellectual Property Law. Now, my wife Elizabeth and I had a good look at this book, which I'm going to show you now, and we decided that it was certainly one that was well worth looking at. It's looking at concepts in IP law. There's the book itself. It's a heavy book. That's the side, and then you see at the back you've got a lot of detail right on the back, which hopefully you can see. This is volume 10 in their series. The book itself actually extends to something like 1,000 pages. You haven't got an index or anything like that at the back, but what you've got is extracts from all the various things. For instance, this is an extract from various published sources. You've got some footnotes, as you can see on the bottom, from these. So it's very much part and parcel of the extracts that have been taken from the two editors of serious points concerning trade secrets. There's the front of the book, and there you can see the series itself, Critical Concepts series. Then you've got contents, which are separated into different parts themselves. It's a heavy book, as I say. And then you've got basically 5 parts, then some acknowledgements there. Then you go into an introduction, which is worth reading, because the introduction sets out what the editor's purpose is. In this book we've gathered 18 articles on topics of trade secret law, and it's organised into 5 parts. And then what they've done is they've taken the articles. For instance, let's look at one, part 2, Trade Secret Theory and Justifications, and what you've got there is you've got a substantial article. Again, very useful value for the academic and anyone interested. This one's actually from the Stanford Law Review. You can see how it's structured, again with a nice little index at the front, then lots of information about the author, and then you get into the book. So, a heavy book, and well worth looking at in some detail. The numbering of the pages is quite interesting, because although it looks as though it's only about 1,000 pages long. That's because the pages themselves, the paper, is actually nice and thick, so it's a bit easier, but it's a heavy book. Now, what we said then is that this is compelling research, and we say this: harbouring any trade secrets or information, we'll start off with a question. This is obviously an intellectual property issue, and if you or your clients have concerns in this area of law, take a look at the titles from this important series from Edward Elgar. It's, as I say, the Critical Concepts in IP Law, and edited under the general editorship of Robert P. Mergs, I'm not quite sure how he pronounces his name, of the University of California at Berkeley. Now, Berkeley, I must get it right. This particular book then that we're looking at today, Trade Secrets and Undisclosed Information, is the latest title in the series, and has been edited by Sharon K, Sandeen and Elizabeth A, Rowe, and it brings together 18 research papers focusing on trade secrets law, an area which is often overlooked. Not necessarily a happy state of affairs, of course, for corporate clients. Ask any company to identify its most valuable intellectual property rights, say the editors, and it is likely to list trade secrets at or near the top. It is significant and noteworthy then that Sandeen has labelled this area of law a Cinderella subject, the forgotten stepchild of intellectual property scholarship. And the orientation of the book and the articles it contains is American, but all the more interesting and relevant for that, in our view. In a quote from an article entitled Poaching Patents in one of the book's footnotes, the assertion is made quite rightly that, quote, in today's economy, skills and knowledge are becoming the only sources of sustainable, long-term competitive advantage in the corporate world. So we're entering the world, if you like, of corporate espionage and all the sort of problems that go with it. So forget about your military stuff, this is all the civil guys. The breadth and depth of the research in this volume is both impressive and enlightening. The articles themselves are grouped into 5 sections, beginning with an examination of the development and scope of trade secrets, which imparts a fascinating historic perspective, to the final section on international criminal enforcement of trade secret rights, which, for example, deals with such issues as TRIPS, the TRIPS agreement, and the legal sanctions against computer hacking to obtain trade secrets. As I've indicated earlier, very much civil espionage, if I can put it in that type of word as an old intelligencer. Overlooking though it may be often the case, the subject of trade secrets and protected information is vast, and so is the range of arguments, the arguments developed, the theories, the substantiations and the justifications pertaining to it, many of which emerge in this important book. The subject is examined in a number of contexts, including employment, government and the internet. And it's important to note here, for instance, the article from the Stanford Law Review on, quote, the surprising virtues of treating trade secrets as IP rights. And the next article is why we have trade secrets. So you can see the way in which the path is moving. Let me conclude by saying this is a book which offers much food for thought and even more ammunition for argument and debate amongst academics, students and IP practitioners, particularly, I think, international lawyers. And for serious IP professionals and researchers, this book is an important acquisition. I think it's useful to have the actual articles all in one place too, so that you can think about the way that the issue is actually developing. The publication date is cited at 2014. I'll just lift this down again. It's a heavy book, as I say. There it is again. There it is. Let's just take something out right in the middle. Californian Law Review. This is Trade Secret Law. And I suspect what you're getting, you see how you've got the footnotes and things, a lot of detail. I suspect that what you've got with this is the beginning of quite a substantial area of interest for a lot of people in the 21st century, with the growth of the internet, the complexity of the way we're doing our business, the need to protect what we actually have, both legally and actually in very much more of a physical security sense too, probably. Anyway, thank you to both authors, or editors in this case, and especially to Edward Elgar for again producing a very high standard of academic text for us. Most grateful. Thank you very much. Bye bye.